The following is a presentation of Project Independence and WCWP. Project Independence is the Aging in Place initiative of the town of North Hempstead.
Welcome to Project Independence and You.
Good morning and welcome to Community Talk Radio. This is Project Independence and You on LIU Public Radio. I'm your host and producer, Kristina Liu, along with my co-host today, Otto Lohse, who's longtime volunteer, friend, great guy. I mean, I can go on forever, Otto.
Thank you very much.
I want to make sure I cover all of our bases. This morning, we are talking to Kristina Freshour, who is a registered dietitian at the Katz Institute for Women's Health. And we're going to be talking about nutrition and wellness in the senior world and a lot about hydration, because we were behind the scenes. We were talking about hydration because if you are listening to us live today, it is quite a hot day. And apparently it's going to be this way all weekend long too. So welcome, Kristina, with a K, Otto. So you have two Kristinas with a K today. Very, very important stuff.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, thank you for joining us. So Otto, I know you must have a list of questions.
Well, I'd start with the basics,
Yes.
all right?
Okay.
You're a registered dietitian at the Katz Institute for Women's Health.
Mhm.
What does the Katz Institute for Women's Health actually do?
Yeah, the Katz Institute is a network within the Northwell Health System. So we have members that are specialists in women's health in all different departments of medical care. So nutrition, orthopedics, gynecology, cancer care, all different, subspecialties. And so we have members that are women's health specialists.
How do you, like, if you wanted to get access to
Mhm.
these types of things, what do you do? How do you get involved?
You can go on the website, Northwell Health /Katz Institute, and you can search up a doctor by looking up what you want. Let's say you want to
Okay.
find an orthopedist.
So
You
this
can
is
go on
all
the website.
encompassed within the
Exactly.
Northwell Health System.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Great. Well, let's dive in. I mean, there's so many things in preparing for this. I was looking at all things nutrition. And of course, as you age, there's a whole host of new things that come. I'd love to kind of tap into, because we are in the summer, just kind of summer tips too, like just what to do in the summer. We could talk about hydration, whatever you think our listeners could benefit from.
There's a couple of things to keep in mind when it gets really hot out. Of course, one is hydration, but two, when it gets hot, your appetite goes down. So it can be hard to eat enough, which can also affect your energy and hydration status. So those are two things you want to be aware of.
With hydration, water is one thing. And then if you want to go beyond water,
Mhm,
clearly you don't want a caffeinated, sugary soda.
mhm.
And then there are things like Gatorade and Powerade and whatever, but there's also a lot of other sports drinks on the market that tell you you're going to get all your electrolytes back and so on. What's your view on what path you might go down?
Yes. And funny enough, electrolytes are kind of trending right now.
Mhm.
And so there's a lot of different powders and drinks. So there's a lot to choose from. But my take is, unless you are sweating a lot, you don't usually need a sports drink, especially with all of the sugar. So I'm not a huge fan of the Gatorade and Powerade, but if you are not a big fan of water, you will need something, right? So if you want something flavored, I like either a flavored seltzer or even brewing some herbal tea and cooling it down so it's like an iced tea, but unsweetened, like a hibiscus tea. You can put the tea bags in the water and cool it down, and you can have like an unsweetened iced tea.
So the electrolyte need would be more of an issue. Like, let's say I'm playing golf, all right, and you do sweat,
Yeah.
or you walk.
Mhm.
If you're doing anything basically and it's 85 degrees, you're liable to sweat.
Yeah.
So is that when you should really think about a drink that replaces electrolytes?
Yes,
Okay.
especially for people that like to garden outside and they're gardening for a while, golfing, walking, playing with their children or grandchildren. Yeah, I would say about 8 ounces of a sports drink would be sufficient. You don't need a whole big, huge bottle of it though.
Yeah, sports drinks have kind of gotten like cereal now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a long display of different sports drinks.
Yeah.
And to select the right one, I'm not sure anybody has all the answers to that.
I don't even have the answers to that because everyone has different needs, especially if you're on medications that lower blood pressure. Some of them,
Right.
some of the sports drinks are really high in sodium, which you need when you're sweating, but you don't want too
Yeah,
much.
to find that balance.
It's a balance. Yeah. That's why you don't need a lot. You need about maybe 4 to 8 ounces to replenish, but no more than that.
And then I guess the question as to the answer to like how much fluid do you have to take in?
For fluid, you need about half your body weight in ounces. So let's say you're 200 pounds, you should be taking about 100 ounces of fluid. And it doesn't have to be just plain water like we just spoke about. It could be other fluids, and it could be fruits and vegetables are high in fluid. So in the summer, eating watermelon, cucumber salad, fruits are high in water.
Pineapple.
Yep, pineapple, oranges, they're all high in water. So that counts too.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's
because
good
we
because-
talk a lot about this on the show all the time. Somehow I feel like we talk about it more than we would expect to talk
Yeah,
about. Is the struggle, because hydration is so serious, and we've seen people who have become dehydrated. I'm always yelling at like my parents, like, you need to stay hydrated, especially in this, because you could really see that would happen to my grandpa all the time with
Yes.
dehydration. And but it's a lot of our seniors that we deal with are nervous about, oh my god, now I'm gonna have to go to the bathroom, and it's Otto's at full disclosure. So it is a tough thing, so I think it is finding that balance, and you got to just do it, Otto. But I think too, when you're eating foods that have it, when you're doing the fruit kind of, instead of having, just a beverage that you're drinking, I feel like it helps, so
Yeah,
I think that
takes
might
the
be the
load.
Well,
case.
some
the
of that
pressure
comes
off.
into the circumstances that you're in at the moment.
Yeah.
Like if you're driving a car on a long trip, the last thing you really want to do as a senior is to have to stop every 3/4 of an hour.
Yeah.
So a lot of people will have a bottle of water in the car
and
when
just
they're
like
driving a
yeah.
long distance. And for seniors, you have to think a little bit about that one. Do you want to stop? And maybe you're going over the George Washington Bridge to the Cross Bronx, to the Throgs Neck, to the whatever, and you might get stuck.
Yes.
And you don't want to get stuck when you really have an issue.
Of course.
So that's why this stuff becomes,
Yeah.
My biggest tip is if you have a longer trip is to be hydrated the day before. Make sure the day before you're very hydrated.
I like that. We got our golden nugget there,
There
Otto.
you go.
Yeah.
We always say we like to take away our golden nuggets from the show, and that's a great little tip.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll put that one in the book, Otto.
So, and then you still would have some leftover hydration.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah. You still need to, drink a glass of water when you wake up to replenish after sleeping. But if you're hydrated the day before, it helps for
Yeah.
the
I mean,
next
one
day.
of the things I not do is drink coffee before going on a long trip.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like we're going to Saratoga.
Mhm.
Saratoga is like a 4-hour car ride. I'm not going to make 4 hours of it.
I don't think anyone could.
Yeah, I don't. Yes, I don't think I would
I
either.
drove here from Westchester and I drank a coffee before I came, and I was like, "What was the first thing I said when I got?"
I gotta go to the bathroom.
So I call it preventive maintenance, like planning.
That's right. It all goes into our plan. You have to plan for everything in life, Otto, and that's
Yes.
just one of the things
That's
that
one
needs
of
to
the
be
big ones. If
needs to
you're
be
fortunate
added.
enough to be able to still drive.
Absolutely. Yes, or even
Yeah.
be a passenger in the
Yeah.
car.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
or
still.
a passenger.
I mean, it's a running joke because my husband and I, we're always going on road trips and we're constantly stopping. So, what, if you came with us,
Okay.
Otto,
Well,
we're
that's
not
good to
opposed.
hear.
We're not
Yeah.
opposed to stopping. You hop in the car with me and
What's
Jay.
the point of holding it?
Yeah,
Just
just,
stop.
you
Are
know.
you really in a rush?
Yes, it is. Yes,
Yeah,
I'm a
you're
firm
right.
believer. I will always stop. And then somehow I end up in a gift shop, but that's a whole nother story for a different day.
So the bottom line is stay hydrated, and you can tell if you're not hydrated by
Yeah, when your urine is very dark, if you're fatigued and a little dizzy, and just overall, like even if your skin is dry, you can
Yeah.
pinch your palm, the back of your hand, and if your skin doesn't bounce right back, then you're probably dehydrated.
Yeah, that's sort of a catch-22 also when you get older,
Yeah,
because
Yeah.
you've abused your skin because of sun.
yeah. So
and
maybe
it's
that's not
dry
the
to
best.
begin with. Yeah.
But also, when you are feeling like tired, think about when was the last time I had a glass of water.
You know what
Yeah.
I always think about too with dehydration, which I'm always intrigued, like, because there is, I feel like, because I've said I've been around people who, like ended up being dehydrated, like when does it like hit that threshold that, okay, now you need, IV fluids, like what, that's what I always think is so scary, because I feel like you hit a point and then like once you're already that dehydrated, there's nothing you can do at home, that is.
That's one of the main
Yeah.
reasons people go to the emergency
Yeah.
room, especially in the summer, is
Right.
because they need IV fluids from
Yeah.
dehydration. So when it gets to that point, you need to go and
Yeah.
get IV fluids. And usually you're kind of like passing out or falling. That's kind of,
Yeah.
and you don't want to get to that point, because if you fall, you could break your hip.
Right. It's
you
just
know,
like,
you don't
I
wanna
mean,
end up-
we've seen it, working with seniors. It's certainly
Yeah,
something
it
that
can
we've
be very
seen a lot of
dangerous.
times. Yeah.
So it's very important, especially now. It's 95 degrees today.
Yeah.
Gotta.
And you know
drink
what my favorite tip, which I laugh because I always went, because my grandpa, as I mentioned, always was dehydrated.
Yeah.
And we would laugh because I would always, I'm like, just do all things. I'm like, just put, he was Greek, so he loved the lemons. So I said, Grandpa, I said, just put some lemon in the water. He acted like I invented the world's most incredible idea
Did he
ever.
do it?
Yes, he did do
Or
it
did
because
he
he thought it
just
was like
yes you?
fancy. He thought it was like,
so funny, because I usually avoid giving that tip because I feel like it's so overused.
well, you know what? My grandpa was quite
like,
impressed with
So
it.
what do? You take a lemon?
So I have
squeeze
I have a
it?
squeezer. I have a personally, I love a contraption.
Yeah.
I have the lemon, like little squeezer that you cut it in half and you squeeze it in. I do it all the time. I mean, I'm a big lemon girl. Even in the winter, I love like lemon in like a hot tea, or something. But it just flavors it nicely. It gives like a little jazz,
It
So
also adds a little potassium,
Yes.
so there's a little of your
See?
electrolytes.
There you go.
Golden nugget.
And
golden
if you
nuggets,
wanna
right.
add a pinch of salt.
So you can actually
Yeah.
have a very it's seltzer without bubbles, basically.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Right.
exactly.
So
Just
you get a
flavored water.
bubble-free.
Exactly. Yeah. And
lemon
you could even do like a
drink.
little lime, it depends on what your thing is.
Have you ever put basil in? It's
Ooh,
delicious.
Basil.
Or
Yeah.
mint, like mint
Yeah.
fresh
Mm.
herbs.
You squeeze. How do you
No,
do
you
that?
just
drop
put
it
it
in.
in
Drop it
and
in
mix
and
it up.
stir it on.
Yeah. It's like a little mocktail, it's nice.
Yeah.
Well, how do you like that?
It's
There you go.
It's like a
Golden nugget.
mojito, but
yeah.
but hydrating.
Right.
Well,
Wow.
you talked about watermelon, all right?
Mhm.
Are there other fruits and
Yeah.
vegetables that are big contributors to hydration?
Yeah. For fruits, the biggest ones, you mentioned pineapple, that's a great one. Oranges, and then tomatoes are great. What's some other vegetables? Celery, cucumber, lettuce. Most vegetables in like raw form, because when you cook it, you're cooking out the water. So
Right.
raw form will be very, very hydrating.
Yeah, well, I got into pineapples about 3 years ago.
Oh, I
buying
like
the
that he had the
chunks.
exact date. He said, I
Yeah,
got his
buying the
pineapples
chunks.
3 years ago.
Well, I had chunks, you buy
Yeah.
them in a bucket.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
So you don't have to break the pineapple.
Yes.
And they're good. I
amazing.
like them.
So good.
So at
yeah.
least I'm getting some fruit,
Yeah.
because most fruit's not good. We talk about
Yes,
this all the
it's-
time.
Why?
Fruit nowadays is very difficult to find good fruit,
Mm.
in my opinion. But we've been through this on the
Yes,
show.
we
many
are always
times.
trying to, it's just,
Like blueberries are like cardboard. Strawberries are nice and red on the outside. They're white on the inside. And
Yeah.
you
Have
know,
you gone to the farmer's market?
oh, see?
farmers market where?
Well, you can go at Clinton G. Martin Park on Fridays.
Yeah, but we can't because we're here.
Well, you can go before. We talked about this last week. Otto,
Oh,
you can go
okay.
at 7:00. It opens. We have a farmer's market at our office.
Oh,
We're in a park. So this summer they brought a farmer's market, and I'm always jealous because I come back from the show to my office and everyone's got all these goodies and how we're raving about everything. So if you want, you can go. It goes from 7 a.m. to 1 p.m.
You
Well, we're
need-
going to do a show from there. then,
That's
so-
right. We're gonna take it
you
onto
need
the
to
road
get
to
the
farmer's-
strawberries.
Yeah.
If they're from out east,
Yeah.
you
Oh.
need to get the
Well,
strawberries.
now's the season too, I
Yes.
believe.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
they're very red. I just got some. I live in Westchester, but I went to the Westchester Farmers Market and I got strawberries, and they were so red on the
Oh.
inside. And like you said, from the grocery store, they're white on the
Yeah.
inside. So it's like, eh.
Yeah, it's like an optical illusion. You see the outside, you're like, oh, this looks so
Yeah.
nice. And you're like,
Yeah,
oh.
they look
But
like the
yeah.
they were
greatest thing
really
going.
sweet, and they were red
Oh.
on the inside. You have to go to the farmer's
Oh.
market and get like
Well, you know
locally
what,
grown.
Otto? I make you a promise. I will get you some farmers market strawberries.
Yesterday in Newsday, there was actually a list of farmers markets, new
Oh.
ones that Clinton Martin Park was mentioned
Oh, good.
in the article.
Good.
You
Well,
should do
there
a
you go.
farmer's market tour and then tell everyone on the show.
Yeah.
The best farmer's market.
That's
There you
right.
go. Good
I
idea.
also like farmers market for fresh flowers, but
Yeah.
I digress on all of that.
Fresh bread too. Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, let's just go. Let's pack it up, guys. Let's head over to Clinton
we have to
Martin
get a
Park for
field
this farmers market.
Another golden nugget.
Yeah. There we go. He's just writing them down. That's right. He's getting them all down. So especially, you had mentioned too that you could lose your appetite in the hotter weather. And I totally get that, because I even know myself, when it's hot, you're just like, I just want to like be stationary and not do too much. So is there certain things that you should kind of lean towards, to eat?
A lot of times people like to have colder foods, of course. That's classic in the summer. Salads, smoothies, because smoothies are great because they're liquid nutrition and you can pack a lot of nutrients in, protein, calories, fruits, even vegetables in the smoothie. So that's an option. And then eating more often. Like sometimes a whole sandwich is too much. So you eat half, 2 hours later, you're feeling a little hungry again, you eat the other half. So just trying to eat more often and regularly. Because skipping meals is you're missing a whole opportunity to get nutrients in. And as people age, you tend to become more deficient in certain vitamins, depending on what medications you're on. Stomach acid decreases, so you can't absorb as many nutrients. So it is really important to not skip meals.
Yeah.
You mentioned smoothies, all right. I like smoothies, but then I made the mistake of reading what's in some of the smoothies, and there's a lot of sugar.
Yeah.
So that's something I think most seniors try to avoid, or should.
Yeah. I recommend not getting a smoothie that's not just all fruit, because a lot of smoothies are made, the liquid is juice and then the contents are all fruit. That makes it really high in sugar. So if the liquid part is milk or water, and then the contents are, you could put yogurt to get some protein in and probiotics, calcium, and then putting also some fruit, and you can throw some leafy greens in there too to get some more fiber. And that makes some nice balanced smoothie.
Well, now I want a smoothie. I mean, this is the problem when we talk about these things. It just starts triggering all these things that I want. But after the break, we will continue talking with Kristina Freshour, who is the registered dietitian at the Katz Institute for Women's Health. You're listening to Project Independence and You on LIU Public Radio.
WCWP is your home for great music and great conversation. You'll find all that and more on WCWP.org. Listen live on the web, check out the lineup, subscribe to podcasts, and stay up to date on the latest station events. Get in touch with us and let us know if you like what you're hearing. And find out how you can support or get involved at the only community public radio station serving Nassau's North Shore. Plus, sign up to get a free bumper sticker. It's all online at WCWP.org.
Welcome back to Project Independence and You on LIU Public Radio. I'm your host, Kristina Liu, and producer of the show. And I'm with my co-host, Otto Lohse. We will continue talking with Kristina Freshour, who is a registered dietitian at the Katz Institute for Women's Health. We are talking all things nutrition. We're getting hungry. But during the break, we talked about, just kind of little things we did. The smoothie thing is really something I'm intrigued with all the time, because I do love a smoothie, but I agree. Like sometimes you're like, oh, am I just giving too? I mean, I love like an acai bowl too.
I don't
and
have
then
a blender, so I end up
I have the magic bullet.
buying the smoothie from a smoothie place.
You can ask the smoothie place to not use juice as the liquid.
Yeah.
Okay.
So then that cuts the sugar, and then they usually have some sort of additive for protein. They have protein powder, different protein powders you can ask for, and that helps balance the smoothie out better.
Well, in our offline topic in the break here, we talked about bananas in the smoothie. Is there such a thing as too much bananas? Because potassium, can you overdose on potassium?
You can, but you usually won't with food. You can overdose with supplements for sure.
Okay.
Food, you're not really going to overdose on potassium. But bananas are not as high as we think in potassium.
Yeah, I wonder who Banana's PR person was, because it's really when you say I need potassium.
The origin of the term superfood came from bananas being imported into the US, and they just wanted people to eat bananas.
Wow.
But bananas have potassium for sure, but they're not the highest.
So what is the highest in potassium?
Potatoes.
Potatoes.
And tomatoes and pineapple is high in potassium.
Now, there are certain things that you have where you shouldn't have too much potassium, from what I understand.
Yes, if you have a kidney condition and your kidneys have trouble
Like a
filtering, more like chronic kidney disease, where your kidneys just are having trouble filtering everything out. You can't have too much potassium or sodium. And so potatoes, tomatoes, bananas are the things that you want to limit, actually. So that's something to talk to your doctor about if they say.
Yeah, and that's what I'm glad that
disease.
you said that, Kristina, because obviously everything we're talking about here, are just really great tips. But I do think that the importance of is to go see your doctor or make an appointment with a registered dietitian where you can really go over your specific things, because everyone's body is different, obviously. I even know with my mom, certain medications she takes, she can't have grapefruit.
Yes.
So there's things
Blood
like
pressure.
that.
Yeah.
Right. That it's, not across the board. So it's really important to, certainly that's your first
I
plan
think
of
what
action.
that recaps is be an educated patient.
Yes.
Like an educated consumer, be an educated patient, be able to talk to your doctor about things like we're just talking about.
Yeah. And as dietitians, we are trained to look for food and drug interactions. So if you see a dietitian, they can help you with that. I can help you with that too.
That's right.
What is a good phone number? If someone wanted to get in touch with you, where would they call?
All right. I'm going to say the number.
Yes. Say the number.
646
Okay.
668
668
6037. That's my personal work phone.
Oh,
best way for me to call you back is to leave a voicemail.
Okay, perfect.
I'm the only one that answers it.
Great. Yeah, because I do think it is, it's really just so I know, even in my own family, when everyone's got their own kind of different ailments or things, whether it's stomach, I mean, we have like, we're like the family of stomach issues. But I do think that it is important because there's so many things that you can do, to kind of get your system.
Well, that was one of my questions is like, there's so many different situations that people are in health-wise. And that I'd say what may be good for one person and may not be good for another person, based on what you just talked about. If you have a chronic kidney problem, or maybe you had a stroke, or, who knows what other problems you can have.
I think that's where a lot of the confusion comes in too, because, dietitians can talk about general health, but then you hear it and you're like, I can't have that. I have this. And so then you start thinking that because you have a health condition, everyone else shouldn't eat that food because you can't eat it. And then,
it's like the frustration, of course. Yeah.
And it's tough.
This raises a point, like you go to your doctor, and I love my internist. She's a great doctor and I like her and all that good stuff. But we don't really talk about diet per se, like based on me and what I have. And how does that, how would you go about finding out what you ought to be a good diet for you?
So doctors are not really trained on nutrition. So it's not something that comes up naturally in an appointment. So you can always, when you go to an appointment, you should always have questions written out so you don't forget. And one of the questions should be, are there any foods I should avoid based on the medications I'm on? And they can help guide you. And if they don't know, then hopefully they have access to a dietitian they can refer you to. But that's a good question to bring to your appointments is, are there any foods that interact with my medications?
That's a good way of going about it, actually, because
it's a good segue.
You may have like 3 or 4 foods you should avoid. And then there's 98 others that you can have.
Yeah.
And you kind of have to pick your own, whatever you want to eat.
Yeah.
But that's a good approach.
And then I was in this realm of kind of, summer and things, and just all these things are popping through my head just from my own family that we've dealt with. I feel like with a lot of older people too, and even younger, especially, during COVID, this was a hot topic, was like vitamin D and being like deficient in vitamin D. So, that had actually happened with my mom. And so now they had her on like a higher dose supplement, and then now she's just on like a lower dose supplement. But what are some things you can do to kind of be proactive in that realm of things with vitamin D to make sure you have enough,
Yeah, it's very hard to get enough vitamin D from food, as we know. It's the sunshine nutrient, so your skin converts it when it's exposed to the sun. So we also don't want to be in the sun too much because it can raise your risk
bring
for
its own
skin
issues,
cancer. So you can go in the sun for 10 to 20 minutes and that's it without sunscreen. Then you got to go put sunscreen on. You also want to make sure you're getting tested at your physical. And if it's low, your doctor might want to test every 6 months, but getting tested is the best way to prevent, because then they can change your supplement based on where your level's at. You might need a higher dose, but then 6 months later, your level goes up and then you can decrease the dose. So you want to just make sure you're getting tested regularly.
What might be some symptoms if you're low in vitamin D?
It's so hard because they're very general. It's more,
Yeah.
it's like depression, fatigue, anxiety, which is like, that could be,
I mean,
those are
so many
so
things, right? So
vague.
common, yeah.
So that's why I'm saying getting a blood test regularly is the best way.
Yeah, it really seems like so many people, and I'm talking people of all ages that I know, were deficient, in their physical, came up deficient in vitamin D.
Yeah.
Unless
Especially because everyone was inside
right.
during COVID.
No,
one's going
and it's just,
outside,
and it
really.
really can, have a host of, chain reactions when you're deficient.
Which leads me
Yes.
to a question. Is there such a thing as a multivitamin lab test? In other words, it says, okay, I want to test to see where I stand with vitamin B, D, C, whatever. Is there a
Yeah.
need for that, or is there such a thing, or are they all individual?
They're all individual. To get like a vitamin panel you'd have to pay for it out of pocket. But insurances usually cover vitamin B12, folate, vitamin D, zinc, pretty like
the
across
main
the
kind of,
board.
like,
And yeah, you could ask your doctor for those tests, especially some medications cause B12 deficiency. So that might be something that's on your yearly physical. Check your level for B12.
so are those things always on your yearly physical, or do you need to request them to be on your yearly physical, or like just depends in general?
Request.
You usually need to request. Vitamin D should be on your
Mhm.
yearly physical. If it's not, you should ask for
Yeah.
it. But something like B12, you'd probably need to ask for it. Unless you're on metformin, the doctor usually orders it because
Mm.
that's one of the medications that can cause deficiency.
Now, is there any foods that can up your vitamin B12? Like, how does that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You could meet your daily needs with 3 ounces of salmon or 3 ounces of lean beef, chicken as well. 3
Oh.
ounces. That's it.
3 ounces.
And
No.
you need about 2.4 micrograms per day, and you can meet your needs with just
Yeah,
that.
you always hear about salmon. Salmon is like the super fish, all right? Are there other fish besides salmon? Like I read, I think it was in some of the material you sent for anchovies, and there's other stuff that has high omega,
Yeah.
whatever. But does that make all the other fish like bad people? I mean,
Nope.
are they good fish?
They're all good. They all have some level
Like
of omega
flounder,
3s.
fillet,
Yeah.
or
Cod.
yeah.
Sardines are amazing.
Mm.
I love sardines. Sardines actually. Sardines are high in vitamin D. That's one of the foods that
Yeah.
you can get vitamin D from. And they're very high in omega 3s.
In oil or water or tomato, or
In
they
oil.
like they come in a lot of different ways.
Yeah, you can get them in extra virgin olive oil, and that would be really good because olive oil is very good for you too.
I know. It's nice to, especially with summertime, it's a great mention. I mean, listen, I'm a salmon girl. So I do love I love salmon.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's one of my things. It's just,
I like salmon
yeah.
too, but my wife doesn't.
Yeah,
So
no,
like,
it's yeah.
we compromise and we have tilapia or flounder
Yeah.
fillet, or
That's fine
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about shrimp? Is that something that has any benefits, or is it just delicious? Yeah.
No, I like shrimp. Shrimp has some level of zinc and selenium, which are important minerals. Yeah, shrimp is great. It gets kind of a bad reputation because of the cholesterol.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Is that a myth or is that a fact?
It definitely has cholesterol in it. But that doesn't mean you can't eat
Right.
it.
It's like the quantity,
Yeah.
I think
And how much shrimp are you really eating in
Yeah,
one sitting?
right,
It's kind of
yes.
hard to overdo it.
Well, talking myths, let's now go into eggs. Like a boiled egg, a fried egg, a
Yeah.
poached egg, or whatever,
Yeah.
scrambled egg, an omelet egg.
No, I like how you riled that all
Yeah.
up.
Yeah,
That was
I
like
like
Bubba
eggs.
Gump. That was really
No,
impressive. Yeah.
If I go to a diner, I very rarely go without some form of egg.
Yeah.
Whether it be omelets.
Yeah,
or,
I agree. I gotcha.
Yeah. The American Heart Association says that 1 egg per day is perfectly safe. It's individualized again. Some people are hyper absorbers of cholesterol. So it can raise your cholesterol if you are a hyper absorber. It's hard to know if you are or not unless you're getting tested regularly. But dietary cholesterol doesn't raise your blood cholesterol, which is hard to unlearn for a lot of
Yeah.
people because we've been told for so long that eggs raise your cholesterol. But what actually raises your cholesterol is saturated fat. So
Is what?
saturated fat
Okay.
and high amounts of sugar. So eggs are a safe food. Again, if you're a hyper absorber, which again is kind of hard to know, then it may raise your cholesterol, but the evidence is coming out that eggs are not affecting people's blood
Like I have like a
cholesterol.
boiled egg about 5 times a week,
Yeah,
in
that's
the
fine.
morning when I'm usually,
I love a hard-boiled egg.
Yeah,
No.
me too.
I love it so much.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's what I have.
I love it. I love it on
See, I have
avocado
two
toast.
forms of breakfast. One is when I need to be a little quicker about it.
Yeah.
That's when I have a muffin, which is probably not good.
We'll pretend you didn't say
Moderation.
that.
You know what? It's all just in moderation.
With a
Otto.
boiled egg and pineapple.
Yes.
Nice.
There you go.
That sounds good.
And then when I'm not in a rush, I'll have cereal with some bad fruit on it, like, tasteless blueberries.
Some cardboard fruit. But you're gonna go to the farmer's market
Yeah.
and change
Yeah.
that cereal game.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I eat it and I say, here we go again. This food is bad.
Yeah.
But I eat it anyhow. So now we got a new thing. We do frozen blueberries.
I was just gonna
Yeah.
say, do you know what's really good and flavorful? Frozen wild blueberries.
Yeah, the
Ooh,
smaller
They're
wow.
ones.
smaller,
Yeah.
so there's
Oh,
like more
okay.
surface area and they're sweeter.
Okay.
Now,
they're
do you
much-
thaw them out or you just put them right in there frozen?
Personally, I like to thaw them
Okay,
just for a couple minutes on the counter before I put them
Right.
in something
right.
like yogurt or something. But they're very delicious, better than ones in the grocery store.
Okay.
That's good stuff. So
There
you're
you
getting
go.
a lot. You have like a whole list, a grocery list.
Yeah.
By the end of
And
this.
they're in the frozen section of your grocery store, in the frozen fruit section.
And then like with an egg, because you always hear like, oh, egg whites or
Yeah.
egg. So what's like the take on, the entire egg or the egg whites?
I recommend eating at least one whole egg when you're eating
Mhm.
eggs because the yolk is where all the micronutrients are. Micronutrients meaning vitamins and minerals. So you can get a little bit of vitamin D, you can get some B12, you can get zinc and selenium in the yolk. So the yolk is actually very healthy and
Yeah.
nutrient dense, but it does have cholesterol. So the balance there is you could eat one whole egg and then 2 egg whites to keep the
Oh.
cholesterol down if that's something you want to do.
So when I do the omelet thing, most diners, you wind up with a 3-egg
Yeah.
omelet,
Right.
which is probably not good, even though I will get a veggie omelet and it has a lot of vegetables in it. But I'm eating 3 days worth of eggs in one day,
How often are you doing that?
once every month or two.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wouldn't worry about
Yeah.
that.
Well, I think that's another point, by the way. My view is anything
Moderation.
in moderation,
Yeah.
like I may have a nice one of them fat sausage links.
I was like in confession.
Yeah,
He's like,
right.
listen, I get the omelet, but also. That's right. You know
They're
what?
Good.
Gotta live a little
Loaded
sometimes.
with
Otto.
fat.
Yeah.
Yes, they are. That'll raise your cholesterol more than the egg will.
But I think that it really is because I like what I do like about eggs, especially for our senior population, is like they're quick things to make,
Yeah.
and it's just like an easy thing, and that's
And easy to eat when your
Right.
appetite's
Yes,
low if they're
yes.
scrambled
Mhm.
because soft foods are easier to eat
Yeah.
when you're not having
Yeah.
like a big appetite.
so there we go, Otto.
Now I go
Market-
into another department. You
there you go.
mentioned earlier potatoes, all right?
Mhm.
French fries, a good French fry is hard to beat, but it's in fat. So what we do is I make the French fries in an air fryer. Now,
Okay.
how does that work out as far as does that make it now that the French fries is a little better for you than it was when you dipped it into a big vat
Yeah.
of fat?
Definitely.
And they
Are-
come out great. They come out
Otto was like,
crispy.
please tell me the French fry in the air fryer is good.
They come out great.
I
Frozen-
love. They're my
well,
favorite.
I
Yeah.
recommend-
Frozen French fry and air fry for 10 minutes, they come out beautiful.
Mhm.
Okay, I will say when you're buying pre-cooked
Yeah.
like
Have
frozen
stuff
French
on
fries,
them.
they're already in oil, pre-fried,
Yeah.
and then you put them in the oven.
Mhm.
So that one's tough
Yeah.
because they're already fried. So
Yeah.
you can make your own by
Yeah, it's actually
cutting.
really good. And it's very easy because I've done it with sweet potatoes even.
Yeah.
You just chop up a sweet potato, throw it in the air fryer.
Yeah.
And it's great. It's so really, and you just throw like a little black pepper on it. I don't even
Yeah.
put salt and it's just delicious.
Yeah.
Salt's not good for you.
Yeah. I'm not a big salt girl either. So I don't even miss it or need
What's
it.
interesting about that, when I was in the Navy and I'm like 20 years old in Jacksonville, Florida, and in Cuba, and they used to give you salt tablets
Yeah.
every day, just a whole tablet of salt. If you look back on it, and I came out of the Navy, I actually did have high blood pressure, and I
Oh,
look back on it, and I don't think those salt tablets help that at all.
Yeah, well, when you're not balancing
Yeah.
salt with
I mean, I don't think they do
potassium,
that anymore. I mean, that was a long time ago.
was it to keep you hydrated because it
think so,
retains
yeah.
I
water?
have no idea. I mean,
I like that
19
Otto didn't quite. He's like, I just took the salt
just took the
tablet.
pill.
Yeah, I mean, you know.
I just took the salt tablet.
I was 19 and
Yeah, I think it was to keep you hydrated. I assume that's probably
dumb as
why.
grass. I mean,
Yeah.
they gave it me and I took it. You know.
Yeah. All right. You live and
And
you
Well,
learn.
yeah, there was a reason behind
But
it.
I think but I don't think they do it anymore. I think this was like a 1950 something or other thing that they did.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, we'll have to
it was
find
a
out.
different planet.
They might.
Yeah, because it is. I mean, they always do say you need salt, for hydration, like especially if you're outdoors. Because my husband works outside and he's always like trying to, as we were saying, water doesn't do the trick. So he, tries to figure out ways to
Yeah,
balance it.
With the
salt. Yeah,
electrolyte thing.
yeah,
full circle.
yeah. It is.
Well, and that's another, we talked about it earlier. I mean, you look at the ingredients on electrolyte beverages,
Mhm.
and there's one that my granddaughter gave me, Jennifer.
Mhm.
It has a list of stuff this long, but none of it's artificial. It's all different vitamins.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there you go.
So that looks like a pretty good, good
yeah.
one to try. And we're
Mm.
not doing brand names.
No, you're
here,
gonna have to
but-
tell me during the break on that
Yeah.
one. After the break, we will continue talking with Kristina Freshour, who is a registered dietitian at the Katz Institute for Women's Health. You're listening to Project Independence and You on LIU Public Radio.
Take WCWP with you wherever you go with the WCWP app. Listen live 24/7 to all of our streams, all from one app. Plus, call the studios directly from the app and visit our social media. Download the app through the iOS App Store on Apple devices or the Google Play Store on Android by searching WCWP Radio, or visit WCWP.org for links. The WCWP app, available now on iOS and Android devices.
Welcome back to Project Independence and You on LIU Public Radio. I'm your host, Kristina Liu, and the producer of this show. And I'm with my co-host, Otto Lohse, and we are talking all things nutrition and health and getting hungry while talking about it. And we are talking about all these great things with our expert of the day, Kristina Freshour, who is a registered dietitian at Katz Institute for Women's Health. So we're running the gamut. What is our next burning question?
Well, there's one of the topics I keep seeing in the newspapers, online, everywhere else nowadays is ultra processed foods.
Mhm.
There's a big focus on that. And explain, if you could, what does it mean? And
Mhm.
what are the real ultra processed foods
Yeah.
that we ought to not mess with?
Ultra processed foods are, I hesitate to say this, but food-like products, because you cannot
Mm.
recognize the ingredient that it came from. So for example, you
It's gonna be
have
like so gross when you think about it.
you have Doritos, right? The
Right.
first ingredient is corn, but does that look like a
Right.
cob
Yeah.
of corn or corn kernel
Yeah.
to you? No. So they're so processed to the point where you can't recognize the ingredients. These are not healthy, flat out. They're just
Mhm.
not. Ultra processed foods are very high in sodium, sugar, and saturated fat to keep you eating them,
Mm.
because they taste really good. They're very satisfying. They have the crunch on the
Yeah.
perfect crunch level. They
Yeah,
have
they do.
scientists to make sure the crunch is really satisfying to your ear when you crunch it down.
Wow.
Really satisfying to your teeth,
Yeah.
because then you keep eating
Right.
it. Have you ever sat on
Oh,
the
I've
couch
been
with
there.
a bag
That's
of
interesting
chips?
because
Yeah.
I'm a
You
crunch
get
guy.
All of a
Even
sudden
serious.
you're getting to the
Right.
you get to the bottom of the bag and it's finished and you're like, what? Where'd that
Yeah,
go?
you give me a bag of tortilla chips, man, forget it.
Well,
Right.
Oh, that's
uh,
wrong.
That's by design.
Well, kettle cooked potato chips, it says the ingredients are potatoes.
Yeah.
And would that be true?
Yes. So potato chips are a little different
Mhm.
because you can
Actually,
they're
like see,
sliced
right,
potatoes,
right.
but they're deep fried and
Yeah.
heavily salted, so it keeps you eating them, which is not great.
Well,
Yeah.
does kettle cooked mean that they're deep fried?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah,
so,
just in a kettle.
so it's not super healthy,
Right.
right? But it tastes good.
I was like, please give me something.
Give me something to hang my hat on. That.
It does taste good, but is that going to get you the nutrition you need
Right.
Yeah.
to stay?
As long as you only
Energetic.
eat a few and you don't do it every day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think
Yeah.
it's hard too. We're talking about easy, and obviously, as you get older, you're not wanting to cook like a whole big thing. Typically you might be alone, you might be two people. I know that that's an ongoing thing. So you might tend to say, okay, I'm going to make a sandwich. But then we get into like the process part of cold cuts.
Yeah.
So is there like a cold cut, right? That like is like a safer cold cut, or is it just best to avoid?
I think that low sodium turkey and low
Yeah.
sodium sliced chicken is totally
Mhm.
fine. Where you get a little, hairy is the like salamis
the
and
hams and
prosciutto,
stuff,
the
yeah.
like cured
Yeah.
red meats that are really, really high in fat. You see all the white streaks, that's
Yeah.
fat.
Yeah.
So those are the meats you'd want to avoid. I know that sandwiches are easy, so a low
Yeah.
sodium turkey on some whole grain bread is totally
Yeah.
fine.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. Well, there we go. That's what I get, Otto. So
But
we can
also
check
make
it
some
off the
tuna
list.
fish or
Yeah.
chicken salad, and that's good too.
Well, then back to the ultra processed thing.
Mm.
A lot of times, like you say, a lot of people you talked about before, cut your own potatoes, do this, do that.
Mhm.
A lot of people don't do that too often anymore.
Yeah.
They wind up doing what we do, and that is buying meals that might be prepared already.
Yeah.
Now, some locations, which we're not getting into, but there's one in Lake Success
Mhm.
has very good
Mhm.
prepared
Mhm.
meals.
Yes, I
ahead
know
of time,
exactly what you're
right?
talking about.
But there's nothing tells you what the
Yeah,
ingredients
yeah.
are. So you really don't know what's in there. But I don't consider that ultra processed. It's a meal. It may be a little more in sodium, probably.
Yeah.
Correct.
But then there's this stuff that comes in the freezer, that pot pies and all these different kinds of pre-created dinners that are prepared.
Yeah. I would say so. Every food is going to be processed to some degree. Even the apple you get on the shelf is processed. It has to be washed and transported, and so it's still processed. But and the food that you get that's pre-prepared, let's say at the grocery store, that's not ultra processed. That's just pre-cooked for you. So that's okay to get a pre-cooked meal. Yes, it might be higher in sodium, so that's something to take into account if you have high blood pressure. But that's not ultra processed. The frozen meals are in between.
Yeah.
Those can be because there's lots of additives and definitely more sodium in
And you
frozen
can
meals.
read the ingredients on those
Yes.
usually.
Yeah.
I'd say yes, you can. But the wording you use, pre-cooked, is one that I didn't think about.
Yeah.
It's a good word.
Yeah.
Two words.
It's just
actually.
cooked. It's just cooked for you. But
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
understand that when you're getting older, you're not cooking for a lot of
Yeah.
people. You've probably cooked your whole life and you're sick of it. You just want to be served. So buying pre-cooked or even meal delivery, there's a lot of meal deliveries you can get, and you can choose menus that are low sodium or whatever you need, low carb if you're diabetic. So you can do that too.
Well, I mean, you just brought another topic up, buying for two people.
Yeah.
That's not easy either. You buy a bag of frozen something, Brussels sprouts, and you get enough to feed six people. So, and you have to take the whole bag and throw it in order to cook it. So now you cook the whole thing.
Why?
Well, it's steamed. Well, you could take it out.
You can take it,
Yeah.
Put half the bag in a microwave dish or in the pot. Yeah.
Okay.
That's why I recommend when people can't finish all their produce to just buy frozen produce, because that's not ultra processed either.
Right.
Frozen produce that has no added sugar or salt is just frozen produce.
Yeah. And I remember like doing the show, which always stuck with me because when we've had kind of topics like this over the years, it's like you're almost better a lot of times in the frozen realm because it's like frozen at the time that it's like, peak, like,
tastes better.
Yeah, right. So like it actually because I think that that's like a common myth. A lot of people are like, oh, like frozen vegetables are like, like the stepchild of, of vegetables or something, But I think that it actually is a great, especially for seniors, because, we always laughed about this, especially during COVID, was the amount of things we had to like get rid of, of fresh produce and stuff, because you would just be like sitting there because you're buying it all at one time and then things are going bad so fast. It's like trying to keep it, all together. But I think that the frozen alternative certainly is a good one.
Well, I had an education years ago. I visited Germany and I had relatives there. One of the relatives owned a big freezer company and a fish company. And he took us out on this big boat, a fish boat, all right, commercial boat. And they catch the fish and they instantly take the fish and they put it into a big thing like as wide as this room. And the fish gets frozen right away. So, I mean, it really is, I imagine, I've never witnessed how they do
Mhm.
vegetables or any of that, but I'm sure that's kind of comparable that as soon as they pick it,
Yeah.
it gets cleaned or whatever,
Yeah.
and probably gets frozen
Mhm.
fairly soon after that process.
Yeah, they blanch it, so they
yeah.
just dip it in boiling water for about, I think it's a minute, and then freeze it. So
Hmm.
it's fresh.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
right. It's picked at the peak ripeness.
Yeah.
Same thing with fish. So that you bring up a good point with fish, you can get frozen individual fish fillets.
Right.
So that
Mm.
could be an option to just have some frozen proteins in your, in the freezer, and it's easy. It doesn't go bad.
And you know what I do recommend too, because I have to, I'll laugh. I'll share a story. We buy, of course, my dog, as I mention on the show all the time, is quite the fancy dog who gets to eat all lovely things because my husband, really makes
I
sure he
love
eats
it.
like a lot of fresh things. But what we get to, which I think is good for people, especially if you're just one person, they have the chicken that's just pre-packed, in each individual chicken, it's like this like little bag of organic chicken, but every breast is, pre-packaged.
Yes.
So it's nice because you're able to just take out one or two, because it is hard if you're opening a pack and you're like, okay, now, it's a difficult thing to kind of, it gets like a little murky.
Yep.
But I think that there really are, and like they, just triggered my brain, with the fish fillet. So to look for those things are great because we did that for my dog, because we were making that as a kind of like a high reward treat, and we would give him like a little piece of just the fresh chicken by itself all the time. So I do
You
find it
talked
helpful.
earlier about sardines. You registered. I used to eat sardines more often, and then for whatever reason, I haven't had sardines. And that leads me to the next question: is okay, I have sardines. I want to put it on a sandwich, on bread. We talk about whole grain. What's the best kind of bread
Yeah.
to put stuff on?
Bread seems to be such a big point of confusion for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's not one type of bread that's good for you. There's multiple different kinds. The first one is whole grain. We always hear about whole grains and how they're good for you because they're higher in fiber. And when they're whole grain, they have more vitamins because the grain is not stripped of, the outer part of the grain. Then my next best suggestion, or actually my first suggestion, would be to go to the bakery section of your grocery store and get a fresh loaf of like sourdough or rye. And it's fresh. It's really good. There's not a lot of additives because they're baking it in the store. And sourdough is amazing for you. It's fermented. It's good for the gut. It has a lower glycemic index, so it doesn't raise your blood sugar as much. Or you can get
now we're excited out of
I like sourdough.
right in big letters.
Sourdoughs, I love sourdough.
Yeah, sourdough's great.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
You
Well,
can
there
get
you
rye or
go.
whole grain too in the bakery section, but I like a fresh bread, and if you can't eat it fast enough, you could slice it and throw it in the freezer. Make use of your freezer.
Yeah,
And
because
then
I
you
think
can
that is
put
the
it in
tough
a
thing.
toaster or an air fryer, which
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
Good, Otto. So we can go get our sourdough bread right after
I'll
this.
do
Yeah,
it
there
on
we
the way
At
home.
the farmer's market.
That's right. At the farmer's market too. It probably tastes even better.
Yeah.
No, that's really good because I think that speaking of, aisles, of going to the grocery, I mean, there's like so much bread, so it's like
Oh my
trying to
gosh.
decipher that, and I think things, a lot of times can be misleading,
Yeah.
you'll see the pretty packaging and say, oh, okay, this looks the healthiest, but then it might say whole wheat, but it doesn't have the whole grains, so it's really important
Yes.
to like look for those distinctions.
I mean, yeah, and some of the whole grain, I mean, it's like hard,
Yes.
thick bread.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really make for a good sandwich, to be blunt about
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Well, it
Right.
depends on your taste,
Yeah.
right?
What really gets people too is multigrain. People think that multigrain is the
Oh,
same thing as
yeah.
whole grain. Multigrain just means there's multiple different types of
Yeah.
grains. It doesn't necessarily mean they're putting
Yeah.
the whole grain in there.
Yeah. See, that's why it's hard, I mean,
is
it's
hard.
overwhelming and like, unless you know what you're looking for, you can think, you're doing the right
Well,
choice.
Then
Yeah.
another buzzword is organic.
Mm.
All right. The images, everything organic is good. Is that true?
So this is a very controversial conversation. Based on the studies we have so far, there's no evidence that organic food is any more nutritious than conventional food. Then you get into the pesticide conversation, and is organic better for the environment, or are you getting pesticide residue? Are you eating pesticide residue by eating conventional produce? We don't have enough evidence right now
Okay.
to say, but Food's very expensive right now. So
Yeah,
you don't need to
right,
buy
yeah.
organic to be healthy. You're still getting the same amount of nutrients. I just recommend washing your food
Yeah.
really well, your
Yeah.
fruits and vegetables.
No, and I think that that's, and that's certainly something I've seen more of is, even just on social media is like really the importance of washing, regardless if it organic, not organic,
Yes.
because I think some people think, oh, it's like, well, it's organic, I don't need to wash it, but
Still need to
right.
wash it.
It's really, that in itself, I think is just, and they sell such great, as like, I'll go back to a contraption. I have like a little tiny strainer. So it looks like, what you use for pasta, but it's just a little tiny guy. And that's what I just throw my, because I'm always, packing fruit for my husband and myself. And it really is just like a good little thing, and you just boom, wash it and you feel better, like, all right, I did my part.
I mean, not only about pesticides, but about different viruses,
yeah,
bugs.
right. Of course. So many
Food
things.
is grown outside.
Yeah.
There might be a bug on it, and that's okay, but you gotta wash it off.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I guess the hope is that it's washed, but then it still has to be washed again, is what it comes down to.
Yeah, because if you just think about all the
And
right, all like the
Yes.
steps, because you'll see, but I have to laugh because I try to be, my husband's better than I, though. He was like, he's really committed to washing the fruit. Sometimes I'll get a little lazy, full disclosure. I'm like, it says pre-wash, but I do believe, really at its core, you can have this bag thing and it says, oh, it's washed, but you really need to wash it again.
Yeah.
It's just something
do.
that you need to do.
yeah, well, I'm bad too. I'll put some blueberries in a plastic cup, fill it with water and shake it.
Okay,
and then take the blueberries
Yeah,
out. But
that's
really,
fine.
yeah, that's fine. That's what I
that's
do at
good.
work.
Yeah,
That's
okay.
actually my system at my job. When I do it, I put it in the cup and I shake it up.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
There's
There
no
you go,
problem with
Otto.
that.
That's good.
There's no
Yeah.
shame in your blueberry washing.
Your cardboard washing.
Yeah, my cardboard blueberry. Well, you heard this before. I mean, blueberries specifically, and your mother always
Yes, I
says
know.
it.
Otto and my mom are
Years
very
ago,
upset about the
your mouth
blueberries.
would get purple
Yes.
when you ate blueberries. All
This
right.
is why you need to get the wild blueberries, because your mouth gets purple
All right,
from them.
Otto.
Wild blueberries.
Yep, I wrote it down.
Uh,
That's your birthday. Your birthday will be coming up soon. I'll give you a
Oh
whole
my gosh, your
host.
birthday's coming
Well,
up?
in September, but
Oh,
I'm a
okay.
pre-planner.
yeah,
I plan.
You
in
really are
advance.
planning it.
I get ideas, and I really got to
better
stick
bring
with
them
them.
to the farmer's market for his
That's right.
I'll be going on Medicare.
Yeah.
then.
But also, is something that especially as you get older, is this topic of fiber.
Mm.
So what
Fiber.
is the best things to do for, because I'm always like, am I having too much fiber? Am I having too little fiber?
Yeah.
What's the rule of thumb that can kind of help us?
A lot of people are not eating enough fiber.
Yeah.
So past age 65, women should be eating at least 21 grams of fiber, and men need about 30 grams of fiber. You can get most of your fiber from fruits and whole grains, as we spoke about a lot so far on the show. Raspberries, 1 cup of raspberries has 11 grams of fiber.
Oh,
What about
Interesting.
prunes?
Prunes, definitely. That's a source of fiber.
Like they are, they're pitted.
Yeah.
There's 2 brands basically, Sun-Made and
Mhm.
whatever the other one, Maiden something or other. And I do eat those.
Yeah.
Along with the pineapples.
Yeah.
4 of them a day.
Okay.
I don't know how many grams that equals.
I believe that would
not enough.
probably about 4 grams, but don't quote me on that.
Yeah.
That's it. So I need
but
30 grams. So in theory, I should eat 30 of those.
Definitely
but
not.
you're also getting fiber. Yeah,
That might hurt your stomach.
That might be reversed. Right? I think you get fiber other ways.
Yeah. Do you eat oats or whole grains, whole grain bread? Because oatmeal is a good source of fiber.
Cheerios.
There are higher fiber cereals like bran flakes.
I
would be
had bran
higher.
flakes.
Yeah, bran
Yeah.
flakes are a great source of fiber.
Yeah.
Artichokes, carrots. What are some?
Artichokes. That's interesting. We throw them on salad.
Yeah.
And
See,
then
you're
we-
getting fiber in ways you didn't even know you were getting fiber out of.
Well, we do, and then the stuff that the artichokes come in a jar.
Yeah.
We actually use that as the salad dressing.
I love doing that. 'Cause
Yeah.
they're the marinated artichokes,
Yeah,
right?
right.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
good.
It's good.
Yeah.
No, so then you're getting creative too. I
And
like
then the
that.
other one is I buy this thing of 5 different beans or whatever it is in a little deal.
Yes.
And that has all kinds of beans and it has some sort of dressing. So sometime I will take that and put it on a salad.
Beans are such a good source
Yeah.
of fiber. I believe half a cup of chickpeas has about 10 grams.
Oh, and I
Oh,
love
really?
chickpeas.
Chickpeas,
like
but
chickpeas.
all the beans, lentils, black beans, pinto beans, all beans are a
Mm.
great source of fiber.
That's my diet.
Yeah. Dan's feeling very validated in the corner, but I wish our listeners and our watchers could see Dan. Well, guys, so much great information. We would like to thank our guest today, Kristina Freshour, who is a registered dietitian at the Katz Institute for Women's Health. We would also like to thank everyone who listened today and watched us possibly. And you're listening to Project Independence and You on LIU Public Radio.